Hi, this is Hans from Request for Music, and I'm here to introduce a new module to the FSyn series, which is called Generate, GENR8, and it is a module that I've created for generative music. If you have looked at the Voltage Modular Facebook forum, so to speak, the last couple of weeks, you've probably seen that Rolf Kasten has created a new book about generative music, and I have contacted him and we spoke about creating a module like this. So I've used his input to create this module, which is exactly aimed at that, at generative music. And what is Generate all about? You see a couple of sections. Well, first of all, there's in this this first large knob that attracts your eye, hopefully, is the master clock, which sets the tempo at which gate pulses are output, or it creates a master pulse or something like that. And if you take it from the interface and you put it in for the first time, it's set at a BPM of 10. That's what it's at the moment. The master clock says that the pulse tempo is 10 BPM. And you'll see that if you change that tempo, that below that 10 BPM, it changes into a setting for seconds. And above that, you can go up to 120 BPM if you wanted a really fast master clock to work with. And otherwise, if I could go down, I would go back all the way up to 1600, or what is it? Hang on. Sorry, 1800 seconds, which accounts for half an hour, actually. So you can go up to very low pulse rates. And the master pulse, or the master clock, is used for all of the knobs that are visible within this module. And the module has a couple of sections. First of all, underneath the master tempo or the master clock, so I'll set it back to the default of 1 or 10 BPM. Underneath that master clock or that tempo for the pulse is a gate time that is set. So it means that the gates that are output, because there's a whole lot of gates coming out of those outputs there, that they are set to a specific value, so that ranges up to some percentage of that full time, going up to 90% or something, or from that full time of a gate. Then there are a couple of sections. There is a gate section here where you'll find 8 outputs and 8 knobs accompanying that. On the middle part, you'll see a logic section where there's a lot of LEDs. There are also switches, and a switch to go from an AND or and NOT and XOR, which are logic functions. And on the right we have 4 knobs and outputs for an LFO section, and 4 for the random section, where there's the controllers in the middle underneath there. So I hope it's logical enough as an interface to help you in creating stuff like that. So what does this do? It actually only outputs clocks or gates when you have that. When you connect something to a gate output, it just outputs gates. So if I take, for instance, the slow scope in, and let's see, is that visible enough? Visible like this, okay. So obviously nothing is connected yet, but let's drag the first output into the one here. I've got my cable set off, because otherwise it's going to distract you from everything. So I'll switch the cables off in the interface here, so at least you'll see the connection that is there. And you see now that I have the knob set at a specific speed. It's set at 1/4, which means that it's outputting a gate every what is it? Don't have my lenses in at the moment because they're giving me problems. So it's giving a gate every 1 0.5 seconds, and that's the pulse that you actually see here. So it's taking that as an output, and if I connect the second one, which is set to 1/2, it's giving me a gate every 3 seconds, and you can see that it indeed is doing that. So let's make sure that it's reset and it's clocked at the same time, because overall there is a clock, but if I have been moving that, it's sort of starting that gate time at that point. But you see now that, and maybe it's better to watch it this way, you see that the gates are sort of starting at the same point here, and then I've got 2 in the same time as the other one is giving it 1 time, because this was set at a 1/4 beat and this was set to 1/2 beat. And that means that if I connect the next one, which I set at 1, which, so that's a full note, so to speak, at this time, that if I connect this up, it will give me a clock ranging over 2 of the first ones, 1 of the other ones, and so on. So, and the gate time, as I said, changes how long the actual gate is going to show up. So something like this. So that's for the gate itself. So that means that you can send gates at specific times set by the master clock. So what is this logic kind of thing doing then? The logic thing is actually just looking at the gate values that are sent out by the gate section, and even if there's no connection there, it still calculates that and it still works with that on this section. In the logic section, I can define that I want to keep track of whatever is going on at output number 1 and output number 2, for instance. So it looks at those 2, and let's take the third cable out and I'll connect that, hook that up to the other one here. And I've got that set to an end setting, which means that it's going to look at, and let's dial up the clock time a bit, so it's doing it a bit faster. You see that now it's actually looking at those 1 and 2 outputs, and when both outputs send a 1, so let's take the gate time a bit back so you'll hopefully see it a bit better. So as soon as they're really overlapping, both of them at the same time, then the AND version is going to send out a gate. So in this case, it's only sending it out when both of those, so let's dial it back a bit so you see that in this case, this and that has an output, so there it overlaps and you have this AND. If I set this to an OR, it's going to send me output if or the first or the next output is going to send an output really. So let's get the window a bit larger so it's a bit faster. So in this case, when this is output, it sends me the gate. If that is output, it sends me a gate, and then you can get patterns like this. And actually you can create combinations of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all of them, because the first one corresponds with the first gate, 2 with the second gate, 3 with the third, 4th, and so on. This would be the 5th, and 6, 7, 8. So if I wanted to check both 1 and 8, I would switch that on, and we'll look if there's a corresponding value between those two. And especially when you set that to very long range, then it might take quite a long time where it's set at OR, so now it's creating that output as long as they are outputting together. So if I switch this, or either of those outputs is giving me an output of that gate. So if I set this to AND, then it can take a longer time if it's really only looking at number 1 and number 8. Obviously the slow scope takes a bit of time to get that. So at this point the 8 is indeed outputting. Now the 1 is outputting as well, so I get this kind of range, and then the 8 is off so I don't have any output at the moment. So that's actually how the logic part works. So I could actually make a combination of 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, which means that the chance of them having an output at the same time will be lower. So I have less or more, whatever the setting is of this, more outputs. So that's the part with the logic stuff. Then the next thing is that I have an LFO section, and in the LFO section, and I'll connect that up, is actually just really an LFO. So that means that if this is set at this is at a quarter, and I'll set this to a quarter as well, then if it is reset, so I'm sure that they're at the same, starting at the same time, at the same cycle point. It's actually, let's change this window a bit so it's hopefully a bit easier to watch. So you see that when I have one cycle in the gate time, I also have one cycle in the LFO time. And that means that if I set this to a higher value, now it's going to do it 1.5 section and 2 and so on. So that means that you've got 4 LFOs that you can switch actually from sine to a triangle wave, or to a sawtooth, or a square wave that will coincide with the settings of the gate and the master clock and all of that stuff together as well. So that's what you do with that part. And then the last part is the random section. So let's take this one out. And in the random section, I have a couple of knobs that define what is going to be output from these outputs. And I have a low and a high setting, where the low setting and the high setting both take their values as all of the other ones do, like 1/16, so the lowest setting, up to 16 times. So that means that depending on the setting of the clock, I have some kind of range that I can set where in between a random value will be chosen. So this time this is set at what is it, half the time, and this is set to 6 or something like that. So it's going to take a range between that, but still within picking a value that is also available on the knob. So the 1/16, the 1/12, 1/8, 1/6, and so on, up to 16. So the range will still coincide with the clock as well. And then there's a gate time, of course, as well. And the knobs that are near the actual output can be set from 1 up to 8. And that only means that it is going to pick a random value, and if this is set at 1, it will only send out a gate once with that chosen value. If I set it to 4, for instance, it will send out 4 of those same values for the gates, for the same gate time on the random part. So if I take this out, it's going to send out some value for that gate, and I'll speed this up a bit, so hopefully it'll be a bit easier to watch. So it's going to send out 4 of these same values and or same times, and as soon as it did that, it's going to create a new random time. So I've got 4 at the same setting here, now I've got 4 at the same setting there, and then 4 at that setting, and so on. And obviously they can be the same as the previously chosen one, but as you can see, you still have 4 of the same gate times here and 4 of the same gate times here, and then a new random value is chosen, and so on. So that goes all the time, depending on the clock time and all of those other things that you have. So what can you do with that? Well, I've got an example here of a very or reasonably complex thing that is going on, and you already have some music, and you see that the generator is or the generate module is indeed connected and hooked up, and I'll show the cables, and that's a messy spaghetti kind of thing, but actually this generate module is now sending out a clock to sequencers, and as you can tell, you see here that the left are the controllers, the master controllers, and the rest of the stuff is them doing something. And I'll zoom out on this so you can see what this combines to. So I've got one generate module and I've got two sequencers that are sending stuff out to all of the modules underneath here, where there's a percussion module giving me that low bass or kick-like sound coming up every now and then. And obviously there's a sort of a master volume or a master output kind of section where I've got a panner where I can decide what side of the image spectrum the sound will be outputting to, and then I've got a delay and a reverb, and then going into the COM module and then going into the output. And let's see what the inners of this do. I've tried, or I'm trying to have the same kind of color language for my cables, so to speak. So that means that all of the red cables are only gates, all of the green cables are modulation, and the light grayish are audio signals. And if you find a blue cable, then the blue cable is a CV signal. So if I look at this, let's zoom in as far as I can. I see indeed this generate module, and I see that the first or this cable, for instance, where is it coming from? Let's see, let's do it the other way around. Let's do it like this. First of all, click this one. This first gate is sending an ADSR, or is sending a gate out to the ADSR here, and this ADSR is used to drive a drone signal, which is here. So if I maybe otherwise, first of all, switch some filters off, so there hopefully will be less sound to hear. So take that out of the equation, take this out. What else do I have? I have a filter here. I have a filter there. Oops. And I have a filter here. So now the only filters that are driven are the ones doing the ADSR. There is still some stuff going on in the meantime, by the way, but actually only the drones are the one that are driven, but there is still the percussion going on. I didn't put that into a separate module to sort of set its output. That will be in a later module that will be added to the FSIN bundle as well. But so the drones are sent or are given output, are giving output to the filter, and the filter is driven by the ADSR, and the ADSR is driven by the generate, and so on. And the frequency normally is yes, at a specific frequency, or set at a specific frequency for the oscillators, and each of those oscillators has a filter that is connected to, and obviously that goes into the panner and so on. And so, as I tried to at least explain here, you see that on the left side you've got this sequence drone nodes, and on the right here I've got the percussion and some random noise. The random noise is the stuff that you also hear through, and yeah, it's sort of separate sections that do stuff. So I'll switch these on where you can hear the noisy stuff coming up. The percussion was still going on again because it was not connected to a separate filter that I could switch off. I'll switch everything on again. That's it. I think that's it. On this lower part, on this lower cabinet, I have some other module that is also going to be in the bundle later on. A special Generate ADSR, which has a far lower setting for all of the attack, decay, sustain releases, because if I have to deal with times like maybe 20 minutes or something, it would be nice having an ADSR that runs over the same amount of time. So I can set a range here from sort of a multiplier. So that means that if I set this to something like 2, 3 or whatever, I can get values from 1800 seconds, as you can see, up to 3600 seconds just for the attack, and you've got the same for decay and for release. So yeah, this will be a nice module, hopefully, for this kind of stuff as well. Well, at least I hope that this gives you some idea of what Generate can do. I'll take another of my patches out. The patches are part of the normal patch folder that you can load from my Dropbox. So if I listen to this one, I've actually used the Generate module to create a couple of, or actually a gate that is driving some sequences, and the sequences, I'll zoom out again to show what this is all about. This is quite an extensive one, as you can see. There's a whole lot of different sequences, and I'll for a while I won't talk through it, just put this on. Well, as you can tell, there's a whole lot of stuff going on there, and a lot of different sequences that are run, and I don't know if you really could think of this as being generative, but that's also because I like my normal melodies and rhythm, and I want it to be hooked up to that. So that's the kind of stuff that I make. But obviously, if you're really into normal generative, then Generate can be very useful for that. And let's see if I have one more example that I can listen to. I have to see where it is. That's always hard to find, right? Because I've got so many of this stuff, so I don't exactly know where I have it again. Well, that was the same kind of thing, sorry. Nope, the wrong one, apparently. Still looking, and I can't remember where I put it. Oh, stupid. Oh, that's probably it. No, that's not the one. No. Be in here somewhere, but I can't find it, although I did give it a name. But I said oh, that's it, 48 steps. Alright, I didn't even use a generate on this. I actually only used... yes, I did. Sorry, a bit messy, but generate... I've only used actually one clock, and the clock is, yeah, sent into a pause. And first of all, it's sent straight into the first sequence, and then the overall time, which I have set at 8 seconds here, I sort of divide that by 4 to get all of the pauses to send out a new sequence. So that's why I have sort of a 48 steps sequence. So if I put my library off, you see that I've got 4 sequences, and it's going through this sequence at the moment. Now it's going through that one, now it's going through that one, and then it goes back to the first one. So all of these sequencers have a gate in and a once button, so it means that it's going to run once that full sequence at the tempo given here, or the speed setting. So it's going to run that first sequence, then after that it's going to get its paused gate from the generate by using the pause, which is set at a setting of 2 seconds. This was at 8 seconds. So I've got the first one being combined or being connected to the generate module, which starts the first sequence, and after 2 seconds that gate is delayed, so it sends out the start pulse to the next sequencer. It's going to be delayed for another 2 seconds, after which it's running the next sequencer, and so on. So I actually have 4 times 16 steps, 48 steps, and the sequencer underneath is driven by the master as well. So after 8 seconds, this is going to the next node, which in turn changes the transpose for all of the others by adding this to the VCOs. So that's why I got a 48 node sequence plus all of the steps that are given here to go into next sort of melody or transpose melody. And I didn't use any quantizer or scaler or whatever to keep the notes within the same scale. Otherwise, of course, it would have been better, but I'm working on that kind of stuff as well. That will be added to the FSyn bundle. And yeah, that's mainly it. I think there's a whole lot of stuff that you could do with Generate. Again, especially for generative music, but even in this kind of sense, you can use that module. So I hope it works out for you. If you have any questions, just let me know, and otherwise I'll see you at the next video next time. So cheers.